We have some news coming out related to our office in Israel.
Yeah, well, since it's our office in Israel, it's a whole Middle East situation. And I want to start with this. Tlaib, Congresswoman, this is what she tweets out. I'm outraged that the State Department is moving forward with plans to build the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem on land stolen from the Palestinians. This is what she's putting out. By doing so, the U.S. is complicit in the illegal confiscation of Palestinian property. POTUS should reverse this Trump-era policy immediately. That's part one of this. Then part two, we're going to talk about a UN envoy meeting with Hezbollah's international representatives and thanking them for showing them the terrorist training camps. Jeff, I want to go to you first on the Jerusalem issue. We were there when the Tel Aviv, the move from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem for the embassy was done. It was a historic moment in American relations with Israel, but also internationally. It was received. Other countries have done it. But it tells you where this part of the Democrat – I don't want to blame the whole Democratic Party. I don't think that's fair. It's this Tlaib AOC wing of the party where they are.
Well, Jay, you're a lot more generous to the Democrats than I am, because I haven't heard anybody from that party speak out against this outrageous tweet. She did a series of tweets, which frankly they're all lies. I mean, it's been American policy for decades to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Finally, it was done. And yes, we were there. And now she's declaring that this is confiscating Palestinian land. You know, Jay, this is part of this administration, and has been tolerant of this, has been allowing this to be their tone of voice. And this is happening around the world. People see it. And so, for example, they're trying to deny Jewish history. They're trying to deny that Jews had Jerusalem, which the whole world knew.
CC, we also have at the same time, this is happening like simultaneously. You can't, this is where I said you can't make this stuff up. And that is the UN now has an envoy, and this UN envoy is the special coordinator for Lebanon, and she tweeted her thanks to Amir Moussaoui, who's the head of, ready for this, international relations for Hezbollah, for giving her a tour of horizon of Lebanese issues.
Yeah, and I think that just points to the fact that the UN really does not have any credibility in what their mandate is. The UN is created basically to maintain international peace and security, and yet you have this UN envoy who speaks directly and represents directly the Secretary General of the UN, and she's giving thanks to a terrorist organization for basically giving her an overview on Lebanese issues, which is absolutely ridiculous.
So you got the person giving the briefing to the UN envoy is part of a terrorist organization, and the United States is funding. We're the largest funder of the United Nations. Jeff, I mean, if you think about these two things simultaneously, Tlaib, the Israelis stole the Palestinian property, which is both factually incorrect and legally incorrect and politically wrong. And then at the same time, I've got a UN envoy saying thank you to they put a tweet thanking Hezbollah's representatives from taking them around and talking about these issues. This is the world we're living in right now.
Yeah, it's honestly, it seems insane. And I'm glad you're highlighting this. It's so important, and it's so important that we amplify this, because the Israelis also had that reaction. And it's important that Americans understand how terrible the situation is becoming. By the way, at the same time, if I could add this, the Europeans are funding, by the way, thanks to leadership from the White House here, the Europeans are funding now the destruction of another holy site, a biblical site, which is Joshua's altar in Samaria on Mount Ebal. And part of it's already been destroyed and paved over, and they're moving to destroy the entire site. They're trying to eradicate all of Jewish history, all of biblical history, and assert this all belongs to the Palestinians.
Yeah, and honestly, destroying biblical history in historical sites seems like something that has been going on for hundreds of years at this, for thousands of years.
It's the modus operandi.
This seems like history repeating itself.
But it's interesting here. So, Jeff talked about Israel's reaction, and Israel's reaction from Joshua Zarko, who's the head of strategic affairs for the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we've done a lot of work with the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs over the years. This is what he said: "Is this real?"
Yeah, absolutely. Is this real?
And the answer is yes, it is.
An official senior UN representative thanks the terrorist organization responsible for the murder of a UN peacekeeper for a tour de horizon, basically the overview of what's going on in Lebanon. It is ridiculous. It's unthinkable that she would talk to the terrorist group to find out, when she has a peacekeeping mandate, to find out what's going on in Lebanon.
You know, I want to follow up on what Logan just said, Jeff, because the idea of destroying the Jewish historic sites it could be the Christian historic sites too, because the Muslims terrorist groups, that's what they want to do. They want to destroy the evidence of Jewish presence in the homeland, in Israel, which you can find from biblical. Like I said, I've written an entire book on this, but this is not new, but they're doing it right now again.
That's right. And they're being funded to the tune of billions of dollars by the Europeans to pave over Joshua's altar. Do you know why they didn't do this 100 years ago or 20 years ago? It's because Joshua's altar was just recently discovered and verified, that site. And so now they're destroying it.
Yeah, of course. And that's now that they found that they can verify a site. All right, now we can take it down. I mean, it does feel like what you heard about in your history classes, which was, here's what happened. They came in, they dominated, they took over this region, then the Jewish people came back, and this happened, and then the Crusades happened, and this happens again. It just feels like we're a bit on repeat, but it's not the old history. This is happening right now, and it's government funded, and it's somewhat celebrated. Yeah,
well, and let's go back to the UN thing for a moment. I mean, I would tweet the same thing. This can't be. My first reaction was, is this real? Were the UN envoys tweeting out thanking Hezbollah for assisting them? Jeff, I mean, this seems so bizarre.
This is why it's so important that we are on the ground in Jerusalem, in Washington, and at the UN. I mean, because the truth is, the world is collaborating to wipe out the existence of all of Jewish history so that they can claim that the PLO, a terrorist group, is the true stakeholder in Jerusalem, in Samaria.
Yeah.
And they're
But don't worry, because they're going to have Hezbollah handle their public relations, apparently, because that seems to be working out very good for the UN.
Right. And that's why we have such a presence at the UN, that we're always engaged there, because we are able to give the other side of the story and point out the ridiculousness of, like this UN special coordinator, how she can thank a terrorist organization for giving her basically an overview on Lebanon. And we will point it out. Every time we encounter something like this, we engage at the UN and point out the ridiculousness of these kind of statements.
No, folks, and we're about to expand that work drastically. I cannot get into the details yet, but we are about to go through a major expansion of our work internationally, and it's a very exciting project. Jeff, last comment here, but we got to take these seriously because we know what they're up to. It's exactly what Logan said. Is history repeating itself? We got to interrupt the history here.
That's right. And it does come from the top down. The fact that the United States government at the top levels is attacking Israel for allowing Jews to go on the Temple Mount, right? They're attacking Israel. It's outrageous. Why shouldn't Jews be allowed to go on the Temple Mount? Why shouldn't Jews be allowed to live anywhere in Jerusalem they want? Well, once that's America's policy, it emboldens the enemies of the Jews, and that's what we see.
All right, Jeff, we appreciate it.